Ah, there you are. This week we have the story of how a little bit of the magnificent Roman city of Leptis Magna came to reside here in a corner of England. It is actually Windsor Great Park. That is Virginia Water, and over there is Black Nest Road. And Black Nest Road in Surrey actually runs through the Roman city of Leptis Magna. And this is not just a story about the highly questionable attitude in the early 1800s towards leaving precious Roman African antiquities in situ. It also raises questions about our modern day treatment of those looted antiquities and the shoddiness of that. Now, coincidentally and quite bizarrely, our story here of the Temple of Augustus at Virginia Water in Windsor Great Park actually has links back in the 1800s to that really controversial story, the Elgin Marbles. Oh, and we are sticking our rebel antiquarian two fingers up at the shoddy way access to this site is managed today. We're going to use our drone to get to the other side of Black Nest Road. We're going to try to get some shots of the Temple of Augustus, stuff that has not been seen for at least a decade. And no, before you ask, we didn't see any royal removal vans in the park. But interestingly, the part of the Temple Folly that is now out of bounds to us actually sits in the grounds of Fort Belvedere, which was home to Edward VIII during the abdication crisis. Now, I have made so many films about Roman Britain and its remains, I'm underlining remains now. It's the period of our history that keeps on giving. But it remains the case, that to see some significant Roman remains, you really do need to go abroad. In this country, we're generally looking at low walls, a ditch, and of course, the obligatory agger. And it is probably fair to say that we have developed something of a reputation for capturing these slight Roman remains in videographic gazette format for posterity. So it only seems right that we do that for the Temple of Augustus. Look at this. Historic England described the remains as the most impressive ruins in this country. I think that's why I was underlining remains earlier. Remains, ruins. I forget. Ironic that romantically arranged ruins are some of the finest Roman remains in Britain. The Folly was created by Geoffrey Wyatt, later Sir Geoffrey Wyatt-Ville for some English reason or other, between 1827 and 1830. He was architect to George IV, whose coronation picture interestingly includes these Roman columns, and one of his many names was Augustus. Founded in the 7th century BC, Leptis Magna arguably peaked after 193 AD under Emperor Septimius Severus, who was born there in 146. He invested heavily in the city, a huge basilica with columns, and he expanded the docks. Maybe some of the looted columns at Virginia Water date to his time. And of course, another irony, he is probably best known for dying here in York. After the mid-7th century AD, Leptis sank into the sand, accounting for its incredible preservation. In the 18th century, columns were robbed for places such as the Palace of Versailles. The imperialists helped themselves. And then the city was extensively excavated in the 1920s under Italian colonisation. Today it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and as far as we know has survived the civil wars in Libya to date. Oh, I would have actually gone to Libya, by the way, but one, I don't have an in-date passport, two, this channel doesn't make enough money, and three, I'm not too fond of political instability. There we have it then, the ruins of Leptis Magna in Surrey. Well, whatever you think about the removal of Roman antiquities from North Africa over 200 years ago, bringing them over here to Windsor Great Park and plonking them here, that's one debate, one area of contention. But we have a much more modern one, because look at this. The gate to the central walkway between the two colonnades is locked. We are well and truly disbarred. Now, this picturesque ruin feature was designed so that you'd walk between the colonnades under Blackness Road, which was a sort of a carriageway or royal carriageway between the two royal residences here, and then into a more sacred area of the temple the other side. Now, I've had a look on YouTube, and I think you can get back to about 2011 and see people still going down here. So this sign, which is sort of implying that it's been locked for the benefit of the site since the 2009 restoration, is not entirely honest. There's a whole series of information boards over there as well that don't look that old to me, but today you can't get to them. Really does sort of create a sort of mixture of emotions for me looking at this. Anyhow, I've managed to get the drone up and get some footage. Someone has gone off to report me, I believe, but I've got it. It's mine. So let's go into the studio now and take a look to it. Drone explore. Ghastly YouTube vulgarism. That's the sort of thing Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will be saying now he's a commoner like the rest of us. Anyhow, these shots show how the carriageway forms an integral feature of the site, and you can just see the rear of it over there on the other side of the road. We'll concentrate on the lakeside first, which really is a story of columns. Looking at shipment details from 1817, there's something like 22 granite columns and 15 marble columns from Leptis here. And you can have fun going onto Google Earth and spotting matching columns at Leptis Magna today. I will advise that generally wives don't like you doing this for days on end, though. You have been warned. Looking at those 1817 shipment lists again, we've got 25 pedestals, 10 capitals, 10 pieces of cornice, 7 loose slabs, 5 inscribed slabs, plus fragments of figurines. This was erected in a heyday for British follies, but I would say that we're looking at something that's not just about picturesque landscaping. It's also about the British Empire of the 19th century comparing itself to the Roman Empire of the 1st and 2nd. I do like how Wyattville has recreated very Roman-like brickwork here, and also on the carriageway bridge. Notice how he's incorporated some of the Roman cornicing into the bridge. Incidentally, we also know that he used masonry from a demolished English stately home, so you can now also have hours of fun replaying this over and over again to see if you can work out which is which, if you don't mind upsetting your wife, that is, or if you don't have one. Too risky with all the trees to fly in from above, so the tunnel it had to be. Now, here's a plan of the Folly, and it's this semicircular area here on the Fort Belvedere side that we're trying to see. Here goes then. Here we go then. Line of sight being maintained at all times. Whoop. Whee! Right. In. I'm going to cut to the chase. Took me ages, but here we are. We're now on the Fort Belvedere side of the Temple of Augustus. And look at that tempting information board, which, as far as I can tell, has not been seen by anybody for about, well, 5 or 6 years at least, it seems. Well, it's nice over here on this side. I like it. Something of the inner sanctum about it. Just look at that, Roman Leptis Magna in Surrey. Good shot of the sort of Romanesque style brickwork on the bridge there. What a shame the public can no longer see this. Bearing in mind that someone had been on a phone earlier pointing at me and talking animatedly, and since I'm a leading amateur antiquarian, I thought it was best to get me out of here. Now, it is important to understand that this in no way represents an accurate recreation of anything that ever stood at Leptis Magna. It is 100% the product of the picturesque ruins landscape gardening thing. However, that aside, and all the arguments about the rights and wrongs of this, I do think it is rather charming, and I think it's absolutely tragic that we can't walk down that central walkway and under the carriageway as was originally intended. I really like the way Wyatt has, on the outer walls and the brickwork to the bridge, he has actually sort of managed to recreate a sort of a Roman flavour, even if none of it actually makes that much sense, any sense at all, if you think too carefully about it. Colonel Hanmer Warrington visited the ruins of Leptis Magna in May 1816, along with Commander W.H. Smythe, not a posh newsagent, but a commander with something of an antiquarian taste, and the artist Augustus Earle. Warrington persuaded the regional governor to gift the ruins of Leptis Magna to the future George IV. Following the defeat of Napoleon, the French no longer held sway over Ottoman Libya, and presumably the governor willingly agreed to this in order to win the friendship of the world's only superpower of the day. Warrington may have been inspired, since earlier in 1816 the 7th Earl of Elgin had sold the carved marbles that he'd had stripped from the Parthenon in Athens to the British government. Now, there really is no regard for the antiquities on any side of this. When the local Libyans got wind of what the British were doing, they rushed to the site, but not to protect it. They started chopping the columns up to use them as millstones. The Bashaw got wind of this, told the British and asked for their forbearance on that. But nobody seemed to care about this stuff being taken away from, where really it should have stayed. Warrington spent the summer of 1817 helping himself to Leptis Magna and shifting it down to the beach, where apparently some abandoned columns remain to this day. The Weymouth store ship arrived in October 1817, departing in November. First stop for the Weymouth was Malta, where it docked for 2 months. And whilst there, they also took on board the head of Ramesses II, who I believe to this day is in the British Museum. And that is probably the reason why some journalists were rubbish then as well, got confused, and reports about these sometimes referred to them as the Elgin Marbles. These eventually arrived in England in March 1818, and they were taken to the courtyard of the British Museum, where it appears they sat sort of little commented upon until 1824, when the Prince Regent, George IV, instructed that they be delivered to Geoffrey Wyatt for his landscaping plans here at Windsor Great Park by Virginia Water. It would be another 2 years in 1826 before they were actually moved to Windsor Great Park and Wyattville could start his landscaping. If the restoration of 2009, we would presume, made the ruins safe, and we've got video evidence around about 2011 of people still using that central walkway, at some point between then and now a decision has been made not to invest in keeping that open, hasn't it? It hasn't been made a priority. Either the ruins aren't safe and they're not going to make them safe, or they don't want to spend the money on maintaining that walkway, or there's just a fear in this day and age of litigation that they're going to get sued for something. But ultimately, a decision has been made not to invest in keeping that open. And thus, that is a highway, that road that is going over. That's a public highway, so presumably there must be checks to make sure that the actual bridge structure is safe. But a decision has been made not to invest in the path, and thus we cannot experience that thing as was originally intended. And I think this estate could afford to do that. So it's a bad choice for us.
How do you feel about the fact that it's here, we can see this part, but we can't get to the rest of the ruins?
It is a shame that we can't go all the way back there and see the full extent of the ruins. So I do wonder, what is the point in them being here?
Yeah, should they be returned?
I think they should be.
Yeah.
Should they even be there? Hold that thought for a moment. Now, I have used the contact form on the park's website to ask when the access will be reopened, and if not, what alternative plans can be made so that we can see the Fort Belvedere side of things. They're quoting a couple of weeks response time, so I will update in a future video. A London-based Libyan lawyer has previously tried to convince Crown lawyers that the ruins should be returned to Libya and that they were illegally moved. On top of that, he has pointed out their neglect and the impact of the British weather. Interestingly, he argues that the Bashur wasn't in a position to give them away, as he had actually massacred a local tribe who saw them as theirs. To date, the Crown have stalled, and the lawyer, Shaban, has got nowhere. Not that this is an argument against their return, but one of the concerns I had whilst making this was the age of the Wikipedia and Google Earth images of Leptis. Looking at this one, you can see that it has the green flags of Colonel Gaddafi's socialist Libyan Jamahiriya, which hasn't existed since 2011. I do hope Leptis Magna has got through all of this unscathed.
Oh no, can I resist? Can I get through this place without being drawn into the consumerist tax? Don't want to spend any money.
Lots to consider this week then as our members roll by. Do you think the Crown Estate is right to restrict access to the full monument in this way? You know, obviously they've had a lot on their plate lately, but come on, I think they could afford this. When you consider the lacklustre response from both the British Museum and the Prince Regent at the time, it took them 8 years to do anything with this stuff. The Libyan claim for repatriation seems all the more poignant to me when the initial removal was so casual and pointless. I want to know what you think. And no Andrew Windsor Mountbatten, formerly known as Prince, jokes, please.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that mildly diverting, and I'll be back with another video next week.
He's struggling over there with the ending again, George. Go and help him out.